resignation, elopement of publicly raised funds, exposure of sweatshop, and the spread of migrant labor shortage have become the external manifestations of the labor price crisis. It seems that the crisis in factor prices has arrived early. Coal, electricity, and the prices of resource goods such as oil, gas, water, land, and production factors such as labor are becoming increasingly uncontrollable, forcing prices to enter a second round of breakthroughs. On the one hand, China's production factors are already low, with industrial electricity prices only accounting for 4% of developed countries such as Japan and Italy, urban water prices only accounting for of international water prices. Labor productivity equivalent 2% of the X, but wages only %. Globalization has inherent driving forces for domestic production factor prices to align. On the other hand, according to Citigroup's latest conservative estimate, the overall cost savings of industrial enterprises due to price distortions were approximately trillion yuan, accounting for nearly % of GDP. The cost of production factors is artificially suppressed. Not only does it not reflect the true cost, but also artificially overestimates profits. Some scholars estimate that domestic enterprises will unreasonably save at least % of production costs as a result, assuming that the enterprises themselves absorb % of this product. Prices will also increase by at least %. Therefore, the market's reconfirmation of production factor prices is an insurmountable barrier. In fact, if prices are distorted, they should be reformed. But the reform of the price mechanism is hesitant. Reform faces difficulties and the inability to rationalize prices. The essence of price crises reflects the crisis of reform, and the inability to promote reform lies in ideology. If there is a problem with ideology, it is a crisis of ideology. Our country is a country with several levels of civilization and several days of complex IT, which cannot be compared to other countries. However, with knowledge at its peak and a superficial grasp of complex situations, using classical Western theories and thinking and methods under agricultural civilization to respond will undoubtedly encounter bottlenecks, making reform difficult. Therefore, the ultimate solution to the price crisis lies in the renewal of ideas. It may be a necessary condition for emancipating the mind to subvert cognitive inertia and the old truth standards with the idea of post-industrialization or even financialization. Even if we can keep up with the times in our thinking, the path of institutional reform remains bumpy. Not to mention the resistance of some special interest groups to reform. The living pressure brought by global inflation alone has made it difficult to reconfirm the prices of production factors, let alone the fact that price reform is now facing two major China's closely following is not voluntary. The evolution of history has never been dominated by a single force, but rather the result of multiple factors intertwined and combined, as in the frenzy in the Chinese stock market that lasted for over a year between and is generally believed To be driven by multiple factors such as China's economy entering a take-off period, unexpected growth in corporate investment returns, successful stock reform, a surge in foreign exchange reserves caused by foreign trade surplus, and the influx of hot money and liquidity flooding used by the appreciation of the RMB. These reasons do indeed exist, but Foucault believes that these are only superficial and visible reasons. And in addition, they are also the fate of financial civilization. Originally the replacement of one new civilization with another old civilization meant a change in the original way of life and values. The countries or regions that first entered the new civilization will undoubtedly become the setters of new game rules and leaders of life changes due to the disruption of existing game rules. For example, the UK, which first entered the industrial civilization, and the United States, which first led the new economic civilization, not only won the highest end of the main industrial chains manufacturing IT of various civilizations, but also made most developing countries follow their management concept and development models. However, being able to enter a new civilization is indeed a fate and a natural result of various conditions. Now, under the condition of having the most, the United States have taken the lead in monopolizing the financial civilization. On the other hand, China clearly does not have the mature conditions to control financial civilization, but the objective existence of Chinese characteristics in the following aspects may be driving China unconsciously to follow closely into the door of financial civilization. Firstly, why China has objectively become the most open system. According to statistics from the Ministry of Commerce, as of China, a total of foreign invested enterprises have been approved for establishment, with an actual amount of foreign investment of billion US dollars. In terms of rate, the proportion of foreign investment stock to China's GDP was % higher than the global average of %. However, China's opening up to foreign capital is receiving risk education due to the structural transformation of foreign capital itself. Foreign capital is increasingly entering in the form of financial capital, leveraging China's vast resources in an asymmetric way of currency symbol that come and go freely. And for Liang Shift 1000 in foreign investment continuously acquired the equity of Chinese steel. Become stories, that is, who can tell stories, whose stories are more credible, and who has more wealth. At present, investment banks seem to be the king of stories. Whether it's internationally renowned Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, or China's struggling private equity funds, they are all passionate about telling stories, ranging from building friendships with the president and prime minister to hyping up rumors about the chairman of a listed company. The purpose of hype is nothing more than to increase their equivalent. The financial civilization does not exist independently of other civilizations, but is linked to the first three civilizations. For example, agricultural listed companies graft financial civilization onto agricultural civilization, amplifying the achievements of agricultural civilization several times or tens of times through a financial civilization. Technology-based venture capital funds graft financial civilization onto industrial and information civilization, greatly improving the efficiency of industrial and information civilization. At present, the most successful grafting is still in investment (NKS), including popular IDG technology venture capital funds, VC venture capital, PE private equity investment, etc. Each of the four economic civilizations has its own differences. The older the era, the more complete its knowledge system is. However, at the same time, its knowledge is the efficacy also accelerates the decline. The characteristics of different economic civilizations vary greatly, and the corresponding knowledge systems have significant differences. Judging the development trend of the next civilization based on the knowledge laws of the previous civilization is similar to the Battle of Guangdong and Qiyingqing. At present, the society is generally unaware of the arrival of financial civilization. Interests of people be respected, rather than being a broad concept. The difficulty of transforming this concept lies in encountering the resistance of traditional ideology and the covert boycott of vested interest groups. Another prerequisite is the upgrade of the governance concept, that is, the upgrade of the version of making decisions for the people, which is undertaken by everyone, upgrading from limited liability to a limited and bounded management model that leads social rules and maintains their fair execution. Previously, the direct participation of the state in the operation and operation of the economy inevitably led to self-interest, resulting in impure motives for the state. However, when the state is above economic interests and only serves as the creator and maintainer of the system, the transformation of its role creates a natural demand for the principles of fairness and justice. The controversial labor contract law, to some extent, is a manifestation of the shift in national motivation from favoring enterprises to providing universal coverage for the interests of workers. It is a transition from a focus on efficiency first to a balance between fairness. Despite its poor timing, it is still a landmark milestone, because the more a few people resist, the more they can reflect that it actually represents the interests of the majority and touches the pain points of interest groups. At present, it is the Ministry of Power that undermines the principles of fairness and justice, distorts the state's motives seriously, and causes even greater public discontent. The phenomenon of door-oriented, departmental interest-oriented, and interest group-oriented. Many authorities use the name of the state to harm the people and enrich the private sector, and practice monopoly under the guise of maintaining fairness and justice. This distorts the essence and core of the national political system, which means that the state represents the interests of the entire society and the nation, and implements its representation through various state machines. However, in reality, various state machines become representatives of the state and fulfill the interests of their own departments in the process of representation. This deviation is the source of social contradictions at this stage. The real reason for the large-scale mass incident in Wengan County, Guangzhou, is that the government has repeatedly violated the interests of the masses in mineral resources development, resettlement, building demolition and other work, and in the process of handling conflicts, disputes and mass incidents. Some cadres have a rough style, simple working methods and random use of police force. Although the stock market was in a mess in the first half of the year, there were still over billion yuan in stamp duty receipts, and local state-owned asset management commissions are still preparing to queue up local state-owned enterprises.